Good evening, Keepers of the Cash. Gary B, the Casual Comic Guy here, and I am making my return. Had to come back to YouTube for Chris the Comic Vet. I was out sick. I am here, and I am getting better. And I am, as always, joined by my co-host with the fattest stack of comics in the land, Rob. How you doing tonight, sir?
I am here and I'm awake.
Hey, that's a win because I took a very hard crash nap before this show tonight, trying to get some more of this stuffiness out. And of course, our guest of honor this evening, none other than Chris the Comic Vet. Chris the Comic Vet, how are you doing tonight, sir?
Good, Gary. Probably better than you and probably more awake than Rob. So, hop on, guys. I'll carry the show.
There you go. That's what you're here for.
You can
You
teach
carry
us,
us
teach us
two
how
old
to
guys,
perform
Chris.
some surgery on a comic book.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Doop doopy doo.
Doobie doobie doo.
Better.
And of course,
not veterinarian.
Right, not a veterinarian. We have Gene in the audience tonight. Good evening, Gene. We have
Bonjour.
Chop and Drop. How you doing tonight, sir?
What's up?
And we'll keep talking to the chat as they pour in. We got Gene and Chop going through discussions. Then we see we got Gary and Chris are both great guys. No mention of Rob. We like that. I'm just kidding.
Well, they said all thins in the community. I'm obviously not thin.
Or else, I'll take that as a compliment because I feel like I need to thin up a little bit.
Right? X11, how you doing tonight, sir? And Jerry the Jitterbug is here.
Ooh,
So,
Jerry?
Chris, before we get going on your first 10 books, for those people out there who are going to find this show on the rewind, just give us a little bit about yourself before we get going. That's all, folks.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are Legion. Good night. No, wrong guy. I'm a second generation comic book reader. I'm a first generation comic book collector. Biggie. And I've been reading comic books off and on since I was 6 or 7 years old. I started with just Mickey Mouse, Richie Rich, Casper's Friendly Ghost. At some point thereafter, I graduated after seeing Superman, the film. I graduated into more superhero-based comic books. And my father was very supportive of it, as was my mom. And it kind of grew from there. I fell in love with Superman, Spiderman, and the Fantastic Four. And of course, that eventually led into the Uncanny X-Men and discovering Wolverine and kind of being blown away that this cool badass is a Canadian. Like, it's just something that I thought was cool. And then I've been in and out of comic books my entire life. And basically in the last 5-10 years, I've really rediscovered it. And now that I have a little bit more disposable income, I've started knocking off some serious grails in my life. And that's about it. I got myself a little bit of a YouTube channel like these two handsome gentlemen over here. And so.
And he's obviously a good liar. Calling us both handsome. Well, at least me anyway.
Oh, Gary, you got the bluest eyes I've ever seen.
Oh, well, I'm surprised anyone can see them right now because they're still half swollen. So, Chris, let's get going, man. Let's talk books. Show us a book you got.
Okay. I've talked on my channel and on Rob's channel about this first book, and it's only appropriate I start with this book. When I started getting an allowance, the first book I ever bought myself was The Amazing Spider-Man issue 174. That particular Secret Wars 2 tie-in is just sitting over there, but it's all mangled and stuff. However, my girlfriend went out and got me an upgrade, so I thought I would show. This is a copy of the very first Spider-Man book that I ever bought with my own money. Nice. And this is March 1986. So I picked it up in 1985, obviously, probably just before Christmas time. And I can't remember. I remember that I got 3 books that day, but I can't remember what the other 2 were. It may have been a Marvel Age because that book at the time was 35 cents. And I just thought a comic book for 35 cents when everything else is basically 95 cents here in Canada. Why not? So this was the first book I bought with my own money. And I kind of thought it was a little bit of a steal because I was actually looking at Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man at the time. But this one sold itself as no ads and 32 pages. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Well, then that's a deal. Like,
right. All story.
My God. Like maybe I'll even get some of the black suit in there too, and yeah. So I kind of felt like that every time I talk about the history of comic books when it comes to my own collecting, I kind of feel I need to start with Spider-Man 274.
And did it really have no ads?
It really has no ads. It's true.
Not even a promo?
Does that count as an ad though?
It does, in my opinion. But
yeah, see, to me, an ad would be like a Daisy air rifle or something.
So no paid advertising, but it had Marvel promotional stuff inside.
There might be. I can go grab the original
That's
if
all right.
you really want to know.
And that has a great cover too. You got Spider-Man and Peril, like a classic Spider-Man in trouble. You got floating heads. You got a little bit of everything on that cover.
So this is it's Ramita, I believe. Is it Ramita? Yep, it's Ramita Senior, and you can tell just by MJ's hair and her bangs there. But yeah, this was basically a short story about Peter struggling at the hands of Mephisto about things and people in his life. So, every little bit kind of was touched on up to this point, Gwen falling and passing away, at the hands of the Green Goblin, and the stress that he always carries about Aunt May and his own relationship with MJ, and then J. Jonah Jameson and Robbie up there as well as Harry. Yeah, it was just one of those stories that touched on everything, and it just stuck with me. And
that era is a real sweet spot for Spider-Man stories too.
It was Tom DeFalco did this. It was just before the death of Kraven's storyline, and just before Todd McFarlane took over. But yeah, that was a really good era because the all-out gang war happened there as well. There's a lot of Kingpin centric stories that were happening in and around that era, so it was a good jumping on point for me.
There you go.
Well, when I hit 1,000, I might be able to give away. I do have a spare copy 274. So
quick, distract him with a second book, Chris, so he doesn't remember that book.
I'm going to go to the next book that I really care about is the very first original artwork I ever got done or commissioned. It was at the Niagara Falls Comic-Con. My son and I were there, and we were lining up waiting for Ken Lashley. However, Ken Lashley's line was a little bit long. So my son and I decided to quickly hop over to Mike Del Mundo and ask him if he wouldn't mind doing a quick sketch. And this is the incredible piece of original artwork that Mike Del Mundo did on the Superior Foes of Spider-Man #1.
Wow, that worked out well for you.
And he only asked for $10. So it's just a quick 3-piece. It's just a 3-color, piece of artwork. And I can basically tell you exactly what he did. He just took this very thick-tipped red marker and literally drew what I thought was a football that then turned into the Super Bowl trophy. And all of a sudden, he took a black marker and turned it into the Superior Spider-Man. And then he took a little bit of silver and just went around the eyelids just to give it that little bit of depth. And then again, along the neck, which is here. And this is.
So he started with the red.
So he started with the red.
That's the crazy part right there.
Yeah, he literally just went crazy like this, and then drew the head inside the red. You can still see some of the red splotches that are outside of that.
Oh, absolutely. But you
can expect that kind of adds to the overall of it, though. That way.
Yeah, it's just it's just one of those outside the box types of piece of work. And Mike Del Mundo did this for me back in August 2014. Again, $10. And if it was more than 10 minutes, I'd be lying. He probably did this whole thing in 5 or 6 minutes, handed it over, and said, "That'll be $10, guys."
Right.
And yeah, it's.
You get artists today that get a whole month to work on a book, and they can't make one panel look that good.
Yeah, it's just every so often they just hit home runs, whether they realize it or not. And this is just something that I'll never let go. It's just, again, one of those moments that I share with my son back from 2014, waiting for Ken Lashley. And So yeah, people may, if I were to do a quiz, who would be the first piece of original artwork that I ever got done? Most people would say Ken Lashley, because I have a relationship with the man, but it's actually Mike Del Mundo that did the first piece of original artwork that I ever received.
That's very serendipitous hopping lines.
Yeah, it worked out
Especially for a Spider fan to get that.
Look at you, very serendipitous, my man. That's good.
I have a vocabulary.
Well done, my friend. The next book I want to show is actually a book that I actually purchased recently, slabbed from our good friend Jason, aka Slotted Up 503. Jay decided to reach out to me when I spoke about missing out on winning this particular 9.8 in a mystery box. He reached out and said, "Hey, I'll cut you a real good deal if you're really interested in getting that book." The book that I want to show is the first Batman story that I ever fell in love with, and I still consider it the best Batman story ever told. It comes from the mind of Alan Moore and the hand of Brian Boland. Is Batman the Killing Joke.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Ooh. Is that a first print too, Chris?
It is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and I can remember picking up this book, not this particular one, but picking up this book, and I still have my copy from my childhood. It came out in 1988. I can remember picking it up the day that it was released, that particular new comic book day, because there was a little bit of hype behind it, like Alan Moore is now going to take on Batman. Let's see what he can do. And I knew Alan Moore obviously from his Daredevil run and a little bit of his Swamp Thing run. So I just at that time was trying to figure out what the Watchmen meant, because I read a little bit of the Watchmen, but it was kind of over my head at that point in my life. I was only 14.
Right.
But then when I read The Killing Joke, it just, to me, this is obviously the Long Halloween's come out since, and there's been some fantastic Batman stories that have been told. Court of Owls comes to mind. But the first one that kind of blows your mind is the one that you kind of hold on to. And The Killing Joke for me was that particular comic book, for at least when it comes to Batman, that blew my mind.
And I remember, I think back in the day too, that's the one where everybody called in the vote rather Robin lived or died, right?
No, that's a Death in the Family.
Death in the Family, yes.
Yeah.
That was part of the regular Batman storyline. Whereas this, for the longest time, was outside of continuity, even though the events from within inside that book bled into continuity. So this was the whole thing of, this is where Barbara Gordon gets shot. And
I got my
and then becomes mixed up. Yeah, but it was the weirdest thing, because for so long this story existed outside of canon, and yet you had this event transpired that crossed over, and so it was always this blurred lines with this. And it's only with really the three Jokers that we brought it back. We brought it more fully into canon now. Or that, and their new everything happened mentality now that they just.
I read A Death in the Family. I never read The Killing Joke.
Oh, The Killing Joke.
I'll probably have to read that because I'm a big Barbara Gordon fan.
Yeah, there's so many allegories in this story.
It's a hard story for Barbara in this one. I mean, it is. It is not. She goes through.
Well, that's what led her into Oracle, right?
Yes.
Well, it leaves her there, but I mean, she goes through
hell and back.
Ordeal. I mean, it is.
And then
there's a reason why this book was not for kids. This book goes. I mean, there's some serious shit that goes down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to read that because I do like some of the Batman event books like that, and that's one that just for whatever reason, there's big storylines out there, and sometimes for whatever reason that you miss that one particular story that everybody else has read, and that's one of them for me.
Yeah, no, actually, even some of it's even crossed over into the Jim Gordon stuff, and the storytelling that's been going on. So
it really is an all-out psychological warfare from the Joker done on Jim Gordon. The paralyzing of Barbara actually isn't about Barbara. It's about getting to Jim and ripping him apart from the inside out mentally. And as far as I'm concerned, that's the book that sent Jim down the road where he's at today. Even in Tynan's Joker, where Jim Gordon is chasing him, it's all because of The Killing Joke. Yeah. And I'm glad DC finally recognized it and brought it into its main continuity. But yeah, it's to me, again, it was just that book that it's what attracted me to Batman. It separated that billionaire to the fact that he's not at that point. He's at the either I'm going to die or you're going to die. We need to figure this out because I don't want to see that happen to either one of us. And that's the foundation of the Killing Joke.
And I like that. Even though I'm not the biggest Batman fan, I do like that two non-super beings such as Alfred and Jim Gordon, and even Barbara herself can be such powerful characters within that universe and mean so much around. Yes, Batman's not powered, but you kind of see him as, he's the ideal human. So that has its own like skill set that's above everything else, where Jim Gordon is just this hardworking guy.
Yep.
A little in the getting towards the dog years of his career, and the I'm too old for this shit Danny Glover stage of his life.
I like that. That's pretty good. Anytime you can pull Lethal Weapon out, I'm impressed. So in and around that era, guys, of the early 90s, the three of us are somewhere around the same age. A big event happened. And that event was a certain collection of artists decided to jump ship and start their own little brand. And I was all in when it came to Image starting up. And, as a young Canadian at the time, I was really, really excited to see what Todd McFarlane was going to do because Todd McFarlane changed The Amazing Spider-Man, and then we got his own Todd McFarlane got his own solo series, just Spider-Man. And when he jumped ship along with a bunch of other artists to go over to basically across the street and start Image, I was all in, like I said. But the book I'm going to show you is not the one you guys are thinking of. The character that the character I actually fell in love with truly from that particular era and when Image started up was Eric Larson's Savage Dragon.
That was going to be my second. As soon as he said it wasn't Spawn, I was like, it's either going to be Shadowhawk or Savage Dragon.
I fell in love with the big green Finn from Chicago, and the fact that he got recruited in to become a police officer was just a beautiful twist I never saw coming. And I gotta admit, when Todd McFarlane left The Amazing Spider-Man and then Spider-Man, Eric Larson filled in for a little bit of time before Savage Dragon started being published. I actually enjoyed Eric Larson's Spider-Man as well. He didn't tinker that much with the giant eyelids or whatever, but he did start to show like shine and sheen on Spider-Man's suit. And that was an Eric Larson trait, and I actually really enjoyed it. So that's why I got to discover his artwork. But then when he got to self-publish and write and create his own artwork, the Savage Dragon is the Image book that hooked me in. And I can honestly say I have Savage Dragon from 1 to 50. This is the only graded one, but 1 to 50. And I read them all front to back a couple times over. I really enjoyed what they were doing. He's gone way too political, in my opinion, now, like with his own personal political references when it comes to American politics. That's fine, but it's not for me. When I go to comic books, I want to be taken away. I don't want to be reminded of what's happening, especially in the most important country. Yeah, in the most important country in the world, the United States. But the Savage Dragon is my favorite Image character, at least from 1992, when I was discovering what they could do when it comes to self-published stuff. And the fact that they were swearing and there was so much bloodshed and everything blew my mind, because I was, like you guys, a part of the Comics Code Authority, and Image did away with that because it was all truly independent comic books.
And also, I don't know if it was you that we were discussing it with. Eric Larson had the thankless job of following up Todd McFarlane, and he came in and put his own spin on Spider-Man, and it was great. It was fun. He gave Venom the drool, the long tongue. There's a lot of venom that he added to that character. Todd created it, and then Larson helped perfect it.
Correct. Yeah, it's like Liefeld says he created Deadpool. You may have, but that's not the Deadpool we love today, sir.
Right.
But
so the next book, mind.
Or the Cable.
Right. The next book I want to show is a book that's only just pardon me, it's now about to turn 4 years old, and I wanted to show kind of like Mike Del Mundo's beautiful piece of original artwork. This is a Joshua Middleton published beautiful piece of artwork that when I saw it, it blew my mind, and I had to go and try and find it. And my girlfriend and I went on a hunt and eventually found it. But as Batgirl 23, this is just one of the most beautiful creations that I've ever seen. And I know it's incredibly simplistic, but just everything about what Middleton did to Batgirl here was perfection. And I will argue that this is one of the best covers made in the last 5 years.
It is fantastic.
It is the best Batgirl cover made, in my opinion, ever, including her first appearance. but this Middleton is just a masterpiece, and I couldn't be fair to your show 1011 if I didn't show the fact that or show this cover, just because I just love it, and it's just a beautiful piece.
Middleton cranked out a bunch of great Batgirl covers in that run. That's why I'm like, when you said it's the best ever, I'm trying to think, because he did so many good covers.
You're right,
that run.
He did one of my all-time favorite Wonder Woman covers. It was just her face.
Yeah, that came out late 2020.
Yeah, that cover is just
what I especially like, and Chris and I have touched on it and a couple times. Sometimes is I guess you kind of become cognizant of it as you become a parent and stuff. The over objectification of women in comics as characters or anything else, and kind of being a little bit of a pet peeve, especially with like, I'm really irritated with this race to try to make Spider-Gwen into some kind of sex object and stuff. It's like a teenage girl. We don't need that. But Middleton did all these great covers, and he did so, and every single one of them, they're elegant. They treat her with respect, and they don't turn her into a sex object.
They just showcase the character.
Yeah, the over sexualization of women. Rob and I, like Rob mentioned, we've talked about it a bunch of times. Like Erica Slaughter, thank God they haven't turned her into a sex object. Like we got to see what happened to Psylocke. We got to see what happened to Storm. A lot of these powerful women that all of a sudden were scantily clad, and it wasn't necessary. I get that it was a time and that it seemed to be okay, but I'm not. I when it comes to female characters, they don't have to have quadruple D's and stuff, and
exactly, they don't.
small panty line or whatever. It's just and Middleton this is perfection. It's been a while since we've had anything from Middleton, but I'm looking forward to when it comes back.
He's one of those artists. When he knocks it out of the park, it's a stunner.
Yeah. And so I talked about Todd, and that actually Savage Dragon was my favorite Image title that came out of that first batch of comic books. But I'm going to have to show something Todd, right? So So this is a book that was gifted to me from my girlfriend.
I've never seen this cover before. Talk about this a little.
So this is a truly piece of original work. It's never been duplicated. It's never been copied. It's never been homaged.
Nobody's homaged it, not even himself.
This has never been. This is a one-time comic book you're ever going to see. Now, let's turn the sarcasm down. This is the book that spawned 500 homages a month, it seems. But yes, this is a book that my girlfriend gifted me. It's signed by Todd. It's Spider-Man #1. The book that Marvel tried to hold on to Todd McFarlane by letting him have his own creative freedom, and it actually was just okay. I always felt Todd kind of did, when it came to Peter. Todd always did better with someone else at the helm, and him having the freedom to cipher that story however he wanted. However, this particular Torment for sure was one of those books I kind of got tired of. Every time Spider-Man got into a battle with whomever it was, half his suit would be gone, and Peter would be half naked by the time it was over. And it kind of wore thin. If he only did that once, I think that would have really stood up. But the fact that it happened every comic book, every battle, that that Peter was just walking around in a paper mache costume. It just kind of wore old really quick. But yeah, this is one of those rare autographs where Todd actually put every letter in his name. For those Todd McFarlane autograph connoisseurs, you know that sometimes he only puts T. McFarlane or whatever. But yeah, this is just one of those books. And she picked this up for me, maybe 7 years ago. And I think she paid maybe $120 for it.
Now you can pick it up for about 70. Oh, no, not signed by McFarlane. Sorry,
Chris, don't let him do that to you, man.
I forgot it is. I forgot it was signed by McFarlane. Sorry.
Yeah.
Tell us, jealousy will get him nowhere.
But the one thing I can remember is this, like a lot of the other books I showed you, I picked this up originally the day it was released. So I have another copy.
Yeah, I remember reading that whole first run too, and and liking some of the characters, but like you, like some of the stuff was just like, I'm like, all right, yes, something different, please, something different.
So,
or just the 4 pages with just like 12 words on those 4 pages. I'm like, all right, you're advertising that this guy's gonna write this now, and there's barely any writing going on.
Yeah.
But that cover, I would rather see. I will look at 100 homages of that before I look at another ASM 300 homage.
The one thing that Todd McFarlane can claim is that no other comic book artist has ever been homaged as much as he has, or that he has homaged himself more than anyone else.
Right.
Any other artist is not even Neil Adams did it to homage himself that much. And he did a lot of homage.
Crane homage was incredible of that.
Yeah. But yeah, there's it's like every character now has been in that pose or in the ASM 300 pose. Even Kanto,
there's an ASM 300 or a Spider-Man 1 homage every other month.
Yeah,
literally.
I really feel like it's every other week at this point. Yeah, and I'm not being sarcastic about that one.
Right.
Yeah. No, and it's not just Marvel too. It's like every publisher is doing it.
Yep.
Yeah. Boom.
IDW. All these artists that grew up with, great. You grew up with Todd and you want to do your piece and you want to do your one, but it's just exasperating and boring now.
So the next book I want to show is a book that actually has never been homaged.
Right.
So I own 2.
I remember this one because you're a big Wendigo fan.
Wendigo's awesome.
I'm a big fan of events happening inside Canada. As a Canadian, I love when comic books come to Canada.
In this story, if you've never read it, by the way, the Hulk and Wendigo are having a curling match, and this guy shows up out of nowhere carrying a whole box of donuts, and tries to share them with them. A fight ensues, and they end up. Next thing you know, it's a hockey match.
Yeah,
calls them both a couple of hosers.
Yeah.
No. And then they all apologize afterwards.
So as they're punching each other, they're saying sorry.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that.
Don't let them hate on you, Chris.
I'm not hating on Chris.
Making fun of my culture? No. So I
I make fun of mine more often. So
I own a couple personal grails. As on your last show, I showed ASM 1. So I wasn't going to show ASM 1 here or anything like that. But I did want to show a comic book that I dreamt of as a young boy into a teenager, and that was Hulk 181. As I turned in my teen years and I started reading Claremont's Uncanny X-Men monthly, like everyone else in that generation, I fell in love with Wolverine. And that book was just always outside my wheelhouse when it came to money. And then a little while ago, I was lucky enough to find a very low grade Hulk 181 and decided to pull the trigger. And I can remember I actually opened it on my channel, and it just kind of caught me off guard. It kind of sucked the wind out of me. And it was just one of those moments like, I've done it. Like this.
Whoa! I own
like
that.
this. I think there's only one other book that at this point now in my life that I would have one of those moments. Like, you stop for a second, and you think, "Oh my God!" Like
only one.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to Action Comics. Like, come on, no. But yes, Amazing Fantasy 15 would be the one that would be like, just be like, what have I done? What have I done?
Card,
right?
Yeah. So yeah, it's just a low grade. It's a very humble book.
Matter.
However, it is an uncut original Incredible Hulk 181, the first full appearance of everyone's favorite Canadian superhero, Wolverine. And yeah, I still stop and I look at it and I just think, wow, like just it took me a really long time to get here or to get it, and that's probably why I just appreciate it just so much. I'm sure it can be cleaned and pressed properly, because if you look at the letters, there is a little bit of dirt there, and it's chipping. But in the end, if I crack this open, I'm just going to read it. So,
right.
But no, it's fine the way it is. It doesn't need to become a 2.0. I don't want that stress of just like, oh my God, like what have I done? You know?
Right, for half a grade.
Right, for half a grade, and in the end, that's the kind of book I'll be buried with it anyway, or it'll be handed down to, you know.
And then if you did crack it, you'd be stressed out the whole time it's gone, hoping nothing happens to it.
Yeah, it's
it gets lost in the mail. What the?
So I wanted to touch on a book that came out just less than 2 years ago. It's a book that changed. One of two books, I should say, that changed my opinion of independence and restored my faith in comic book writing. And the first one I want to show is from Anaki and Roy Miranda, and it is We Live #1. When I say this book changed my perception of how comic books can be created, I'd be lying. This book blew my mind. This book was heavily recommended to me from Mark Legion of Comics and Ryan, new guy from the Cosmic Campfire. They actually refused to talk about this book when we would talk about comics, and they said, we're not going to talk about We Live till you read it. So I went out and got myself the trade paperback when it was released, and I read it, and it blew my mind, almost to the point of tears, of what happens at the end of this particular mini series. And I really got invested in it. And it's just, I'm the kind of guy, when it comes to, like, say, watching a horror movie, I don't like horror movies where children suffer. I don't like, I'm a firm believer of the term suffer not the children. And what happens to this brother and sister in this story is so heartbreaking. So when the events of the final issue happens, it really got to me. And it just swept me off my feet, so much so that I've lent this book out now, and it's the same reception. It's just, what a beautiful story. And to back up how good this story is, last year when we had Free Comic Book Day, there's a one shot, and that story, and that one shot for Free Comic Book Day was another beautiful story about a kid who's passing away or slowly dying of cancer. And that story is just as beautiful as this one is too. So for anyone that's watching, if you haven't read We Live, volume 2 just came out 2 months ago. If you can find the trade paperback of We Live for the first miniseries, pick it up. You won't be disappointed, I promise. It is a book that restored my faith in comic book writing, and the visuals and the multimedia that are affiliated with this particular book. When it comes to, there's a barcode in here you can scan to listen to music that was actually created by the Miranda brothers as well, that walks hand in hand with this story, is just stunning. I highly recommend We Live.
That's one that you picked up just at C2E2, right?
Yeah, I picked it up at C2E2, that particular 9.8 for just $100. And it's, I don't want to say I ripped them off, but I ripped them off.
So, good for you.
Proper job.
Yeah. And the other independent that I got to talk about is my favorite ongoing series right now. It's Something is Killing the Children. Rob and I talked about, or a little earlier, talking about the over-sexualization of women, and that it's refreshing when we get a character that's not overly sexualized. And Erica Slaughter is that character, in my opinion. She's just a badass, kick-ass kind of girl, and is not afraid to get her hands dirty. Now, I know I said just a few moments ago, I don't like stories where children suffer and that kind of thing. This book has that. So I know I'm going against everything I just said. However, the storytelling for that comes with Something Has Killed the Children is just extraordinary. Now I know a lot of people have a lot of opinions when it comes to these newer arcs that have happened. To each their own. That's why there's certain eras of Spider-Man people love and certain eras of Spider-Man that people don't like. And
Right.
But this series for me, when it comes to Image Comics, blew my mind. This is one of 2 comic books that have been created in the last few years that I will pick up every time I see it, just because I fell in love with the storytelling. The interiors are very original. There are very many. There's lots of times where you actually have to read across 2 pages instead of just your traditional 1 page and then move on to your right page. And it's just so much. It's just so deep. And I enjoy multi-layered storytelling. And for me, Something Is Killing the Children is just one of those books that has so many overtones going on in it that it's just delicious. I can't find a better word. It's just
And
it's
I'm
just
feeling
good.
that way about Noctera myself too. Another one
Yes.
with a great main character. She's not
She is
oversexualized.
so good.
The story
It's
with her
so
and her
good.
brother is great.
Yeah.
And as you learn more about the event and the big PM, it's just getting better and better.
Yeah, Noctera is fantastic, and that's coming to a close soon. Another book I'm gonna, I guess this is the final of the 10, and it's not Slap. It's again another cover that I fell in love with. The story is actually pretty good, and I fell in love with the cover because A, it's J. Scott Campbell. B, my girlfriend and I it's one of those few covers where we're both kind of like, I love it. So I gotta do a little, I gotta throw this in just to make her smile. But this is The Amazing Spider-Man, Renew Your Vows, issue number 1, the variant edition, the cover that actually spawned a statue and so many prints. But this is that J. Scott Campbell cover where Peter is just showing how much he loves his wife. In my opinion, she'll always be his wife. And just giving her that big old hug right in front of downtown Manhattan. And obviously she has a beautiful smile, but Peter's smirk just to say, like, look guys, I got a 10, I hit the jackpot, just means the world to me. And I hope one day to get this in a 9.8. But yeah, to me, it's just one of those covers that's just fantastic. But it has that little bit of a personal meaning, just because when we saw it, my girlfriend and I fell in love with it so much so that we went out and started getting more of the Renew Your Vows variants,
which was a good story. But
it was a very good. It's obviously it's not 616 Peter, because MJ and Peter are actually going through a tumultuous time in their relationship. They have a daughter. I know, Rob, you know all that. But yeah, it's a good story. It's a good Dan Slott story, and there's not that many I can say for. But
this is a great cover to be paired with 601.
Yeah,
because it's just
and
hanging on a wall together. They look awesome.
And Peter's always best with MJ.
Oh yeah.
Whenever Marvel gets screwy and they want to break them up, it always takes away.
Yeah, it's kind of like what's happening in this one right now. It's like MJ's not talking to Peter. Like, what's going on? Like,
well, they haven't been now for. I mean, it's been like they've been teased even through all of the last 80 something issues. They just teased that maybe they might be, but then they had her go off to go work with Mysterio on a freaking film.
Yeah,
I mean,
but when Peter was poisoned by the UFOs, who was at his bedside the entire time? The redhead,
right? Which was kind of odd that she came out of nowhere, because the previous 80 issues gave you, like, aside from like when they, well, anyways, let's not get into our hate.
I think we all agree that Peter needs to be with MJ. MJ needs to be with Peter, and if they're going to give him problems, give him money problems. Don't give him relationship problems.
That's right.
So I guess what's next for 1011 is a book with a story.
Yes.
Over the last couple days, I've really thought about, where do I want to go with this? Do I want to tell a story about a book that I got from my dad? Do I want to show a big old grail that I got? Do I want to show my favorite ASM Rogue's first appearance? And I decided, because of the events that have happened recently, that I would go down a different avenue. The book I want to show is a book done by the late but legendary George Perez. And the story behind this book is, before I started my YouTube journey, my girlfriend and I bought a handful of Torpedo mystery boxes. And we belly flopped, so much so to the point the last box that we bought was $100 US. As if anyone's watching, I am Canadian. It was $100 US. And in the end, I think we ended up getting something like $30 or $35 retail worth of books. And that's when I said to her, that's it, no more. I'm swearing, like, we are just wasting our time. And then I started my YouTube journey, and I decided, why don't we try this one more time? And at the time, Torpedo Comics was doing a 12 days of Christmas sales, and they started guaranteeing value in their boxes. So Torpedo had really, at the time, shot themselves in their foot when it comes to, they just created a bad product when it came to their mystery boxes. And they decided to do a theme for one mystery box, and it was called Treasure Hunt. And in those mystery boxes, I think they made 100 of them, and they were like maybe $75 US, but you had the potential of winning 4 or 5, I don't want to say major grails, but big time keys. And I decided to buy one just to, scratch the itch.
Right.
And I decided to go with this particular book, like I said, because the world just went through a tragedy of losing George Perez. So the book I want to show is the first appearance of the new Teen Titans, and DC Comics presents issue 26. I won this book from Torpedo Comics.
Wow.
And
Nice.
as you can see, it is in very good shape. I think it would, if I decided to press it and grade it, it would probably come back minimum a 9. If it came back less than 9, I would probably be tearful. But in honor of George Perez passing away, and wanting to come up with something that wasn't necessarily, a dad story or a big time holy grail, I wanted to show something that was just probably a little special for the moment of what we're dealing with the loss of two DC legends recently. But yeah, this is the first appearance of the new Teen Titans. DC Comics presents issue 26, featuring Superman and the Green Lantern on the front. But if you look here, it says there's a 16-page preview of the new Teen Titans. And
16 pages. That's a significant preview.
Yeah.
Right.
And to carry on that story a little bit further, I actually ended up winning a couple other Torpedo grand prizes from them. I actually ended up winning ASM, the first appearance of the Hobgoblin, that famous famous cover where Spider-Man suit's getting ripped. I also won the DC Comics Presents first appearance of the Masters of the Universe, and
Hulk.
I won Hulk 180 in an 8.5, but it was the Mark Jewelers insert super rare variant, which I ended up trading recently for a low grade Amazing Spider-Man issue number 2, the first appearance of the Vulture.
Ooh, that's a good trade. That's a solid trade.
Yeah. I guess we're on to our final book.
Oh, all right. Let's get to your spec pick.
So this is one that I've struggled with. I really wanted to spec out on Something Is Killing the Children, but I kind of feel like that book, Something Is Killing the Children, number 1, became a 4-figure book, really back during the COVID bubble. So I wouldn't feel comfortable recommending people to go out and get themselves a 4-figure book. I also thought about doing Marvel Spotlight 32, the first appearance of Spider-Woman. And I know that book has really taken off recently with the news that it's going to be that we're going to get a female Spider character. We just don't know if it's going to be her or Gwen or maybe even Silk. So the one that I thought would be a guaranteed home run of a spec is a book that's actually kind of taken off in the last couple of weeks with a little bit of MCU fanfare. How legitimate it is, I'm not sure. But my spec pick for this edition of 1011 comes from September 1976, Nova #1.
So nice.
So this is Nova in the CBCS 8.0. I'm not going to point this out because they were all like this back in the day, and I'm sure Rob would be like, "Now, Chris, they all had that code. They all had the UBC code back then." But yeah, this is the first appearance of Richard Rider as Nova, and it's been talked about for years and years now that we will eventually get him because the Nova Corps were introduced in Guardians of the Galaxy, the first film. It's just a question of time before they do it again, and I'm not going to guarantee we're going to get Nova himself in Guardians of the Galaxy #3, but we all know if there's going to be a big space movie, they need to introduce Nova.
What if they run into him in Love and Thunder?
Yeah, that would be even better. Or
what if
Black
that's
Panther
their
2.
big secret?
Yeah, that would be a hell of a surprise. But yeah, because Love and Thunder is going to be cosmic as well. It's going to be set in space, right? Yeah. So it's just a question. Are we going to get Richard Rider? Are we going to get that kid Nova? Because I know they're really building a Young Avengers team right now. I want
Richard Rider before Sam Alexander.
And that's what we've been. I think there's been some rumors that was going to be a Richard Rider, but it's a question of, okay, well, they introduce him, then how long are you going to have him before, is it going to be like a one and done, and then they're going to switch it over to Alexander because they are going with that youth group or whatever? Who knows? We'll see. But either way, Nova's now.
Yeah. So now you can get height. Obviously, a 9.8 is going to cost people a small fortune. I'll be honest, but you can get a decent grade. I think I paid like just under $300 for an 8.0. I'm sure you can go get a 6.0 for maybe 100, 150
raw
to 200.
Copies.
Yeah, there's also a lot of raw copies, and this book was well published because they had to throw the franchise's name on there to try and sell it, and we all know that Spider-Man sells books.
And I loved reading that back in the day. I don't have any of the Novas anymore, but I love that first run. I've read it through a couple times, and the writing's up and down, but I love it.
Thank you, Matt. But yeah, it's like I said, I kind of struggled with where to go with the spec. And like I said, I really, really thought about Something Is Killing the Children. But because that book is so expensive and there's a handful of variants and so many printings, I kind of thought about, like I said, Marvel Spotlight 32. Also thought about First Blade, First Werewolf by Night. But I kind of kept coming back to Nova. So in the end, my spec pick for this edition of 1011, everyone, is the 1976 first appearance of Richard Rider as Nova.
And you guys all thought he was bringing out Speedball.
I'll leave that one to Beckerman. Yeah. But that's my 1011.
Hey, you got a nice little compliment there from Jason.
Oh, thank you, Jay.
Pendificalous.
Yeah.
That was great. I'm always love seeing Richard Rider Nova. Just one of my favorite characters. I always liked him. And one of the characters I always thought too that you could identify with, like Peter Parker.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was replicated quite a bit too with Darkhawk.
Yep.
I love Darkhawk. That was like that one Image book
No, you're thinking of Shadowhawk.
Oh, yeah, forget y'all.
The Valentino, Valentino Shadowhawk, he went around breaking backs.
Right.
Shadowhawk was the one I liked as a kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's quite the vicious way of dealing with people, man. Well, you're a bank robber. I'm going to break your back. What?
When that book came, I had just gotten out of military school, so
that lifted.
I still had a violent nature in my head at that time. few images.
That That was fantastic. Great show, Chris. Awesome books, of course. And I was surprised you actually brought as many slabs as you did. I didn't know this show. The fun part about this show is you literally have no idea what people are bringing. You have no idea if they're all raws. You have no idea if they're all slabs or if they're a mix. And it's just great to see what's personal to other people. I expected to see some Spider-Man. I was surprised we didn't see any Michael Turner from you.
Oh,
because because he's one of those classic artists too that we all.
Yeah, and you're right. And for those of you who are watching, Gary was actually kind enough to gift me Spider-Woman #1, that Spider-Man Booth variant Michael Turner cover. And
that is not why I brought that up. I'm just saying.
No, I'm just saying that was one of those.
He did great DC work, and
yeah, that was just one of those books that I fell in love with that actually eluded me, much like the
pretty sure
the Middleton, yeah, the Middleton Batgirl 23. But yeah, it kind of came down to, if I was going to, I wanted to spotlight a handful of artists that meant something to me. Not to take away the fact that Michael Turner doesn't mean something to me. I just decided to go with the Renew Your Vows J. Scott Campbell cover. This one right here again. Just because it means something not to just me. So if this was just another book, I probably would be showing the book that you gifted me, that you AOK'd me, that Spider-Woman Michael Turner cover, which is just incredible. How they're still finding pieces from that master artist, I'll never know how they're still managing to pull up these fantastic pieces. But I know Michael Turner's been gone for almost 10 years now. I
think 2007.
Oh yeah, so I guess he's been gone for almost 15 years. Yeah, and yeah, he was a master as far as I'm concerned. Yeah.
Yeah, Michael Turner. Yeah, it would be. But
yes.
So the great thing about that cover you showed though is that's why MJ and Peter work. That captures everything you need to know about those two characters.
Yeah,
and their relationship together.
Like how happy she is and how proud he is. Now I know Rob's a big fan of J. Scott Campbell too, and J. Scott Campbell's got some incredible Gwen Stacy pieces out there, but this might be my favorite when it comes to both Peter and MJ on the cover.
It's probably like my third, but there's some pretty damn good ones he's done.
Yeah, he's got so many. It's really hard to pick from. But yeah,
of course, Peter's smiling. I mean, it's that old, hey, the nerd scored this. Yeah.
There's hope for us all, isn't there?
That's right.
Before we sign off, Chris, did you ever see this? I got to show this to you.
Sure.
Make sure pig first. Yeah, there you go.
All right. This is Michael Turner Black Cat.
Oh my goodness. I have never seen that cover before in my life. So is that a variant for her last series?
Two series ago. Her first one in 2019. It was issue number 2.
Okay.
I meant to show this to you at one point. I didn't know if you had ever seen it.
No, I've never seen that. That is fantastic. Yeah, again, it's just like I said, Michael Turner is just a master. And yeah, it sucks, kind of like how we just lost 2 legends. I'm not going to throw around the word legend for Michael Turner, but I am going to say that he was a master. And it sucks that we don't have him still pumping out those incredible pieces like that. Now, I do want to kind of go off track for a second here. I see that Brian LCS is in the chat. Brian, if you don't know what it is, Brian is the guy that houses the comic book community YouTube awards. I hope I'm saying that the correct way. And I don't want to sit here and say, hey, vote for me or anything like that. But I am going to say, for everyone that's watching, me. Right, I am going to say subscribe to me. Yes. But I am going to say, for everyone, if you decide to vote in this wonderful, wonderful act that Brian is doing with these YouTube comic book community awards for the under 100 subscriber, best 100 under 100 subscriber channel. I am going to ask everyone to please consider voting for Wheelchair Superhero 87. He is just a tremendous young man. He's been dealt a tougher hand than what some of us have. Him and his sister are over there putting together some wonderful content, and I'm sure he follows most of everyone that's watching me speak right now. But if I could have you, if you're going to vote, please consider voting for Kyle, Wheelchair Superhero 87, for the under 100 subscriber award category. Now, I would love for you to go follow him, but I'm almost afraid that if you go follow him, you'll get over 100, and I don't want to spoil it for that young man. He's just a tremendous guy. And go subscribe for him. Go subscribe to him. I'm sure, because the fact when the voting opened, it was under 100, and I'm sure Brian would recognize that. But yeah, everyone, if you're going to participate, please consider Wheelchair Superhero 87. Thank you.
Excellent. So, Rob, what have you got coming up, sir?
Oh, there's stuff. There's unboxing. But Saturday, that guy Chris over there and we do a show over on my channel. It's called Slab Hub. It's like this show, but it's like its daddy.
it's the granddaddy of all slab shows.
It's like 3 times the size.
I don't consider the shows alike, but Rob always picks on me for it.
Well, that's why I had to go some raw here as a coach.
It's derivative, but that's okay. There's more than one idea. I'm not saying like I created the idea of having people come on and show their books, for Jesus Christ. I never came up with it either. So we got John's Comics with Kids coming on this weekend. Nice. So that's going to be great as we're getting ready to launch off our summer of what the on Slab Hub, because it's going to be banger after banger after banger coming up. So definitely want to be making sure you're watching that. And of course, there'll be some other stuff. Unfortunately, we originally did have a schedule coming up interview for next week, originally with Rob Pilgrim from PGX Comics was scheduled to come on and talk to us about comic book grading stuff, but unfortunately he's had a family issue that's come up that's preventing him from doing so. So I'm not even sure there will be a Sidekicks Talk Comics next week. Either that, if there is, I'll probably go into some details on the whole CBCS changes that they recently underwent, because I don't think anybody's really done deep dives onto it yet, and a lot of people still have questions. So,
and if not, Rob and I will discuss, and there might be an extra episode of the 1011 thrown in.
Oh, I'll take a nap. You don't know,
right? And there is another
co-host.
Right. There is an extra episode of the 1011 this Saturday. Chris is doing double co-hosting duties.
Wow, on Saturday even, huh?
Yeah. So you get to see
I'll be omnipresent.
You get to see the dirty little bastard child, I guess, later that night with on the 1011. Not you, Chris. The show, the 1011.
Oh, yes. I didn't call that a few
I just want to clarify that.
So we have Son of Slab Hub when it's something different, and you have the bastard of got it.
Right.
Derivative.
Is this the Jon Snow
there you go.
On slab shows? This is a Jon Snow show?
Yeah. The people under the stairs, the child locked away in the basement.
the Dean Koontz of slab shows. Yeah.
Yes. But our guest and No Pokemon is going to be that Chris and I are going to be having this Saturday night is Tyler from Shattered Glass.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I did not know that till now.
Maybe that's why he scheduled it when I wasn't going to be there.
Maybe that's why he's like, Chris, I need you to co-host. I'm like, okay, buddy.
Chris is getting a cold.
I feel COVID coming on. No.
Right. No, Tyler could only do Saturday night, and as you know, I occasionally do Saturday evening 1011s. Usually Roger's the guest. He's out of town this week with his mom. You co-hosted brilliantly before. I'm like, only a natural extension to ask
every
you
week
again.
multiple times. Multiple times every week. You do a phenomenal job.
I'll keep it casual. Don't worry.
Yes, Chris is Robin I's and many other people's go-to co-host. Not only is he a fountain of knowledge, he's also just a damn good guy.
Oh, you're the best, Gary.
All right, but Chris, what's coming up, bud, for you?
I actually dropped
a busy Saturday with us.
Yeah, so Saturday I'll be like literally here. Literally, like no. Okay. Today I actually dropped a.
And then you can go to banter afterwards.
Au revoir, Jean. And then afterwards you can catch me on banter. No, I actually dropped a brand new Walmart blind pack video today. So I opened up a pair of DC and a Marvel blind pack from Walmart. Please go ahead and check that out. I recently just got challenged by Mark's dad, Pops, from Legion of Comics, to do a first appearance challenge. And I thought right away, great, I'm going to do all Spider-Man Rogues Gallery. and then he said, Chris, I'd like to see what you can come up with outside of the franchise. And I'm like, damn it. How am I
hit you with the kryptonite, huh?
Without Spider-Man. So I'm kind of coming up with some sort of formula. He said the franchise, so I won't be touching Peter Parker, but we'll see what I can go from there.
No Peter Tingle, huh?
There'll be no Peter Tingle.
I was so he pulled out like all these great books, and they're like, oh, I can't use that one now. I can't use that one now. I can't use. There are all these great books I had in my mind to use.
I see Louis just dropped the link for Gene for the comic book community awards. Yeah, like I said, I'm not going to tell you how to vote, but
vote early, vote often.
Yeah, just remember that it's now it's tier category, which is a beautiful thing. So it won't be a clean sweep across the board. It's a nice thing that Brian's done. This Saturday I'll be all over the place. I proudly co-host Slab Hub. It's one of my favorite things to do on the weekends. I'll be joining Gary for another copy of 1011. I'll probably be hopping on banter afterwards on Chip Getler, the White Shadows channel. Sunday on my channel, Mark from Legion of Comics and myself will be doing Two Cool Guys swap picks, where we each give one pick that you may want to consider picking up for this upcoming New Comic Book Day. And I got to admit, this past Sunday, Mark and I picked looks like two bangers of storytelling. So you may want to check out this past copy of Two Cool Guys. Next Wednesday, I invite everyone who's watching. If you went and picked up some comic books at your New Comic Book Day at your LCS, please feel free to hop on my channel. It's an open invitation. Rob is basically my co-pilot for that, where we show the books that we picked up, whether it's variants, ratios, exclusives. Basically, we're showing the books that we're really excited about getting into and reading for that week. Sunday nights, I'm usually on Mark's channel for At Week's End, where we take a spoiler look back at pulp culture. This past week, I got really fired up talking about Doctor Strange. So if you want to see me go on a Raimi rant, check out this past edition of At Week's End. And some point next week, I'll be opening up some more Walmart packs. I really enjoy it. I got to admit, I really enjoy opening those Walmart packs. They're a lot of fun. Sometimes they're a big letdown, and sometimes it's just like, wow, home run. So yeah, thanks for just letting me go on about myself for an hour and 3 minutes.
I do have to mention this. Chris is only 9 subs away from 700. His links are below. Go to his YouTube channel. If you're watching this on the rewind and you have not heard of Chris the Comic Vet, go sub him up. Get him over that 700 mark, and he might pay a personal visit to your house to fix your pet. So, no.
Veteran.
But no, seriously, guys, he's 9 away from 700. He's right on the cusp. Let's get him over that edge. And everyone in the audience, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Everyone in the chat, anyone who's catching it on the rewind, thank you for sticking with us. And always a pleasure to have Chris on the show. Always a pleasure to have my co-host. And look forward to YouTube's future when Rob, Chris, and I host every YouTube show out there.
True story.
We're taking over.
It's going to happen.
But until next time, guys, everyone keep it casual and take